factor, I'm sorry, for staffing issues. I'd rather say staffing resolving staffing issues or something.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good afternoon, almost.
Good morning.
Before I get to my my request, the last time I came to provide an update to the council, President Copenhaver asked if I could bring in a few Day Report Center participants to provide some testimony. So I've done that. If you three would come up here for me. I also have with me a couple of my staff and our adult drug court probation officer, Crystal Gumble, is back there.
Good to have you.
Back in the back there, our case management coordinator, Will Papajoss, and one of our peer recovery coaches, Dennis Bynum, are with us. I have three participants here from the Day Report Center, different referral sources, different lengths of time in treatment, different stumbling blocks along the way, different stories. I have Patrick Glenn, who is a young man who's been in adult drug court now for how long? 6 months? 4 months? Somewhere in that neighborhood. I have Amy Brinkman, who is a magistrate court referral, and I have Kevin Miller, who originally was referred to us by parole, right? Yeah. So I'll let them take a couple minutes and share about, briefly their story and how they ended up here and how the Day Report Center has impacted them.
First of all, I'd like to say welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your decision to come here today and share your stories. It's very important. And we all have stories of our own as well. So feel free to be yourself and try to, speak from your heart and tell us how the Day Report Center and our recovery efforts may have been a factor in helping you along. So,
who wants to go first?
All right. By the way, you dressed well for the occasion there.
Yeah. Thank you. All righty. So I was born at Jefferson Memorial Hospital on July 15th, 1998. I was born to my parents, Martha Glenn II and Laura Ann Miller Glenn. And I had what I would consider to be a perfect upbringing because my parents used to own Sleep Valley Golf Course. So I had plenty to do. And both my parents loved me very much and were very present in my life. And growing up on the golf course, it had its ups and its downs. Like I said, I could do, had plenty of freedom to golf and fish whenever I wanted, so that was one of the good things. But on the bad side of things, I was around people that were a lot older than I was, and golfing and drinking kind of go hand in hand. So I started drinking at a young age, probably 11, and then by the time I was 12, I was hospitalized with alcohol poisoning. And then not long after that, I started dabbling in drugs. I started smoking weed at first, and then hanging out with the wrong people. I slowly started doing pills, and there for probably 2 years, I would just do them whenever my friends had them, or stuff like that. And then eventually that led to me going out and looking for them on my own. And being an addict, it didn't take long for me to cut out all the middlemen and go straight to the source. And before I knew it, I was getting thousands of dollars of drugs thrown to me and planning on selling them, but that didn't work. I ended up just doing them all, and I had inheritance money, and working for my dad at the golf course, I had money for a little bit to pay back the people that I owed. But during my full-blown addiction, I had roughly a $700 a day habit, so that money went quick, and once all that money ran out, I still...
$700 a day.
Yes, sir.
So I would think that would be, my math would be about $21,000 a month.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And I was doing oxycodone 30 milligrams, which were $30 a piece, and I was doing anywhere from 15 to 20 of them a day. Mm-hmm. But once all the money ran out, I still continued to get them and planned on selling them, but that didn't work.
Because of addiction, right?
Yeah.
the addiction isn't something that you can break away from real easy, right?
Right.
It may have been a choice when you first started, but then it became
And I
a
had
necessity.
to have it, yeah, I had to have it to get out of bed pretty much. And I had to help my dad keep the golf course going. So when I was going through withdrawals, I could not get out of bed to go mow until I did a fill.
Right.
And so once all that money ran out, I was still getting the drugs, and I ended up owing the people thousands of dollars and didn't have any money to pay them back. And out of fear that they would hurt me or someone in my family, I thought it would be a good idea to try to rob Food Line, which was a terrible idea, but it turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me because
You got arrested, I guess.
and I got put into drug court. And like, not only has drug court helped me to achieve a little over 6 months of sobriety, it has, every aspect of my life has changed because of drug court. Like, the job I have now is all because of drug court. The relationships I have with my family and friends is all because of drug court.
So you say the job you have now was thanks to the drug court. Did the drug court help you get that job?
No, actually, I was sentenced to community service for drug court because I didn't have a job.
How did community service work for you?
It was,
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty good program, huh?
yeah,
They respected you, didn't they?
yeah. Well, I actually did it at St. Michael's Park.
But they respected
Yeah.
you, right?
And then the guy I was working with there, him and his wife owned Tri-State Pet Care, and he said he saw how hard I was working without pay, so he said, you know, why don't you come work for me and my wife at Tri-State Pet Care?
Mm-hmm.
So if I never would have went to community service, I wouldn't have the job that I have now.
Right, and that's the reason I ask that, because it sounds like you did this in Virginia then, right?
Yeah.
All right, so our community service center here in Berkeley County is very similar. You know, we're not giving handouts, we're giving hand-ups. We're not disrespecting you, we're respecting you. You know, we want to build people up. We don't want to beat them down because they're already down, right? So it's not our job, but it's our passion to be able to help you, as Tim and us all say, you know, it's the people that we have in the key positions in recovery know the way out of that 6-foot hole you dug yourself in, right? So, I'm still listening to your story.
But when I first got into drug court, I thought I could beat the system and get away with it. And I'm here to tell you that it is foolproof. You cannot beat it, because I tried and failed.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to jail for 12 days and then rehab for 30 days. And that, I guess so to say, scared me straight. And ever since then, I have had no desire to go back to that way of life that I was living.
One of the things that you said that I think is very telling is, I think, and I might be wrong, is once you get into that cycle that you're taking the drugs and you're down and out, the only way to get through the next day is to stay down and out, right? Because every time you start coming around, you realize that you've done wrong. You made that decision, the wrong decision, and so you don't want to think about that. You want to just stay sedated, and put it off to another day. I'm just thinking that's the way it would be. So, all right, continue on your success story.
Also, I can't remember where I was at.
You said you were so glad that you made that change and made that decision.
Oh, yeah.
And how much drug court was bulletproof.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely is. And I just wanted to come today to express the gratitude that I have for the program and how much it really has changed my life in every aspect of my life.
Well, it's people like you and everyone else in the program that we do this work for. I guess it's very, very important to ask you another question. So, by the way, welcome home. But, you know, you're here telling your story and how much it changed your life. How much did it help your family's life as well?
In leaps and bounds.
Were they happy to see you back
Yep.
home?
My mom actually said to me, "I'm glad I have my baby boy back."
That's right. That's right. And your community around you is probably happy to have you back too, right? Because when you're trying to deal with a $700 per day drug habit, you're looking for ways to pay for that habit, right? And you're not the person your mom and dad raised, and you are now, right? Well, I'm going to personally say thank you for your story. Thank you for sharing it. And again, welcome home.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
I'd like to say something. You know, when you started your addiction, and I've had a rocky past myself to get to where I'm at today. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago, I say that because I'm kind of old now. When you start your problem, it just escalates and escalates and escalates and gets bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. But the recovery and the good side is the same way. When you start down that path, it just gets better and better and better. And it continues to do the exact same thing in the opposite direction of what you were at before. So keep the course, and good luck with that.
All right, thank you.
I'm sure. Anybody else?
I can only say you all three of us, your courage is immense.
So, all right. Thank you. And I'm terrible with names. If you would, state your name when you come back up so I can call you by your first name.
My name is Amy Brinkman.
All right. All right, Amy.
Okay. My addiction started with prescription drugs. I was prescribed script after script, and unfortunately I did get addicted to the opiates. And for several years I had surgeries on and off. I began with cancer, and then when I was excused from the oncologist to have the dental surgery for my wisdom teeth to be removed, the dentist pulled out the lower right tooth, and he pulled the nerve of the tooth and stretched it. So I had a reconstructive surgery done in Baltimore at the shock trauma department. I was on morphine and Oxycontin for a good 9 months straight. And when the prescriptions ran out, you turn to somebody you know that gets them. And like his story, I was spending roughly about $500 a day for the family's bills to be paid. My husband, now ex-husband, made a decent income, so he didn't even miss the money. I did the finances. So I did do that for several years. Money that could have been spent on vacations, new cars, improvements for the home, things like that, went to pills. Percocet, 30s. There's nothing to take 4 of them, chew them up, swallow them to start the day. 120 milligrams.
So did you do that because you no longer had pain, right?
No, at that point I was completely addicted.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then once.
So it wasn't your choice to get on opiates, it was a prescription that your doctor gave you. And I'm looking for an email to reinforce what you're saying, so I'm not ignoring what you're, I'm not focused, but I am focused, I'm sorry. But I'm also looking for an email to reinforce exactly what you're saying.
Okay. No, I had a white picket fence Princess Light. We didn't really even have alcohol in the house. Maybe some barbecues or picnics like that, we would have some beers. But on a daily basis, my now ex-husband, he was an engineer, and we had one child, and we lived in an upper middle class neighborhood, and I was a stay-at-home mom. So after I lost the baby, and
I'm sorry.
The baby was a tumor. I had gestational trophoblastic neoplasia, and that's where the fetus doesn't form properly when the egg and the sperm join, and then it just, with the exponential cell turnover with the gestational cell combined with the cancerous cell, the rapid rate of replication is immense. My tumor grew an inch in 3 weeks. So I did have the hysterectomy, and again, like I said, when I was excused from the oncologist fear from any relapse or a recurrence of cancer, then I had the wisdom teeth done, and that's when that happened. But So that I did deal with that for several years, and finally it got to the point where the morphine was no longer available, or the Percocet, so I drank. There were times that I drank and mixed them both. And 2018 was pretty much living hell on earth for me. I was in the ICU 3 times, waking up, hooked up to machines. I went to rehab, and I'm going to tell you right now, Kevin Knowles hits the nail on the head. 28 days is not enough. I came home from rehab, I think May 6th, May 8th, after a couple of days, and 28 days in Fort Lauderdale, and then another 3 or 4 days in Key West, taking the time out.
Well, Key West would be a bad place to have a recovery center.
The water's pretty there. So rather than to the airport, I had the Uber drive me to Enterprise. And I just took a ride down the coast and started bawling my eyes out. What has just happened to my life? And 3 weeks being home from rehab, I was in an accident. I was hit by a FedEx truck. I had some damage to the muscles in my back. And 3 weeks out of rehab, nobody's going to give you any prescriptions or anything. So called the morphine man. Went back to it. And then by July, the 3rd week or so of July, I was drinking again, mixing it with the opiates. And I got a DUI, 2 DUIs within 48 hours. So the state revoked my bail, and my husband would not do anything but let me sit in jail because he said I, quote unquote, need to drive my ass out. So while I was there at the ERJ, my husband worked, and my mother as well, worked with Kevin Knowles with the recovery program to get me to a rehab center. My attorney refused to present that to the judge because it was a 6 to 9 month program in the state where the judge had ordered me a 60-day recovery program at Serenity Acres in Maryland. So there was a disagreement with the family, and so I sat in jail while they sat back and forth with the attorney. And I had a good friend who has been there before too. He had an injury to his back and was on fentanyl and dealt with opiate addiction for 8 years. He realized the danger and said, no, you don't need to be sitting in jail. You need to go to a facility for help.
So you got criminalized for an addiction is what happened, right?
I'm facing felony charges.
Right, but it wasn't a criminal. You did do some criminal activity, but you done it under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Wouldn't have done those things if you weren't under that, right?
That's what it
I
does
can tell
to you.
you're too good of a person to be doing that.
It takes your mind. You don't know who you are anymore.
Right.
And so, yeah, I did get to the Addiction Center. It's north of Baltimore on the Chesapeake. That was an excellent program. I recommend it to anyone. The rehab that I went to in Florida, it was actually Delray Beach, just north of Fort Lauderdale. We laid on the beach on some days. Some facilities are good, some are not. But actually,
so when you got incarcerated, right? Because unfortunately, for years, that's how we felt like we had to deal with an addiction. We're going to criminalize you and put you in jail with people. A good possibility those people being criminals, right, and take you to a whole nother level. I mean, that's what I find.
And that's what I'm facing also with these charges. I was also served divorce papers while at Ashley, and have dealt with that. I did have a slip-up, a hiccup, when my divorce was final in May, but dealing with the divorce, I was also ordered to finish my degree. And so that when the divorce was final and we were separated, myself as a stay-at-home mom, I would be able to have the education to financially support myself. And that was the plan. So I did follow through on that. And
So you have your degree now?
well, they're holding it for my diploma for English 101.
Okay. Well, if you hear me speak, they'd hold mine forever.
Yeah, I went to school with some of your boys, your family, but they are holding it for the English 101 thing, but we'll deal with it because I'd like to continue on with my graduate studies to get my master's degree and eventually a PhD in biochemistry, bioinformatics, genetics. But how am I going to get a job if I'm a felon?
I think there's ways to help out on that. That's another thing that we're trying to work on, and the Day Report Center, I know Tim works on trying to help, and as long as you continue the path you're on, I think anybody will,
So that's what brings me to this. Tim and I, we went to school together at Hedgesville, and over the years, we have lost several mutual friends to this. And some of them at younger ages, some of them just recently that have passed. And with the help of the center, a lot of people would just be sitting in jail and not getting the attention that they need.
Right.
And
So you're doing this just as much for other people as you are yourself.
you have to.
Right. That's part of the healing process, right?
And 28 days does not cut it. So this program needs to be funded and supported, because for people like Tim and Will, they saved my life. Until you've been there, you don't know how gut-wrenching it is. You can go to a therapist, you can go to a 28-day program and listen to somebody with a license give you textbook rhetoric. You can throw that out the window. Because, in my opinion, I used to turn it. I used to be biased toward a heroin addict sticking a needle in their arm, or seeing a lady out in a parking lot doing favors to get some money just so she could get her fix. Yeah, the stigma against it needs to stop, because you don't know what happened, why that person ended up there.
And Amy, that's one thing that the county council and people like Tim and everybody under the umbrella, Kevin and all the wonderful employees we have, is
Dana.
We're trying to wipe out that stigma. And, it's, we have to realize it's here, right? And you can choose to ignore it, or you can fix it, or, make steps. And the reason why Kevin is there in the Recovery Resource Center is because this body said that you didn't have to be a criminal to get help, right? You don't have to commit a crime to go to the Day Report Center or Adult Drug Court to say, I need help, right? So you can walk in off the street, go to Kevin's Recovery Resource Center, and get that, say, I'm done with the life I'm living, I want to change, without committing a crime. Never had that before.
No, and that's one thing that is difficult with the addiction, is because that willpower to go ask for help, when you get to the level where you have had enough and you can't take it anymore, takes tremendous amount of courage. I know myself, I wouldn't have the courage to do it alone. It took me getting arrested and sitting in jail to detox, because the addiction takes over and the chemical alteration that it does to the mind. Now, of course, we don't understand the full neuroscience behind it, but when the neurotransmitters are affected in that way, your body at that point is addicted, and you cannot do it on your own. You do need the help, and the 28-day program isn't enough. It is not sufficient to get yourself back. When I first went to the rehab, the psychologist, I don't know if he was the psychologist, met regular doctor. I didn't care at the time, so I was pissed off I had to be there. But he said that the amount of morphine I was taking, it would take at least 8 months for my brain to start to heal.
Right.
And so that 8 months is only, the beginning of the healing. How do you learn to live again? How do you fit back into society? How do you face the people that you used to interact with when you're so ashamed of yourself? And those in your family shame you as well. Like my dad would always say, Amy, you're too damn smart for this. You know better. Nobody put that blank bottle up to your mouth. Nobody made you swallow those pills. You're too smart for this. It's not a matter of how smart you are or how ignorant, I guess for lack of better words, you are. It's just the chemical addiction is real. And the stigma against it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. It's at any walk of life that's being affected.
Well, a good pastor friend of mine told me, and I'm sorry to the council because they hear my stories all the time, but I feel it's worth repeating because you all haven't heard some of them, is a good friend of mine, which is Pastor Danny Sullivan, told him, our son was, well, you don't know, but our son was addicted to opiates. And
I remember.
He asked me, he said, or Danny said, Pastor Danny said, how do you treat Douglas when he comes home and he's had a great day? I said, tell him how much I love him and how proud I am and all that good stuff. He said, well, what happens when he walks through that door and he's had a bad day? I said, well, I'll tell him about the things he needed to work on and change. And Danny told me, he says, that's when he needs your help the most. He don't need your help when he's good and had a great day. He needs your help to find a way out when he's having a bad day. So part of the recovery efforts, each and every one of you and anybody out there listening, is not necessarily all the one that has the addiction, but it's the family as well. We need to figure out what we need to do or what we're doing wrong that could have contributed to the addiction itself.
Yeah, and I've also learned a lot over the different treatments that I've had, the classes in the IOP program. They say that it begins in the formation years, ages 4 through 6, when a child experiences trauma. Those are the critical formation years of the brain. And when a child faces trauma at that period of time of growth, they're most prone to addiction.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you. It sounds like it's very important, and I'd like to hear what you said.
What I've learned is that children during their formation years who have experienced trauma tend to be more likely grow to be addicts. Those formation years are ages 4 through 6,
right,
when the brain is in a rapid development state.
Right.
So like in my situation, my dad, he was in and out when I was at that age. Do I blame my dad for what has happened? No. So is it genetics? How much is based on genetics? That's actually my focus in school, genetics. And we don't know enough yet, but like you said, with working against the stigma, don't shame the person, like the family members. What can they do to help? What didn't they do to help? Because my sister, that was my probably closest person, she no longer has anything to do with me. I was home from rehab on October 30th, and my dad and his now wife that he left for when I was 5 came back, remarried my mom when I was 9, left again, and married her now. Whatever. Sorry, it's a touchy subject, but yeah, I was home October 30th, and they came to the house, and the wife brought in my son's Halloween party. I had just gotten home from rehab. He didn't have the strength to come in and meet.
Well,
so it does. It affects not only the person that's addicted, the family as a whole, and when those who haven't been there, like I've said earlier, when you've never been there before and you do have that bias in your mind, that person is a bad person. That's the difference between the guilt and the shame. The guilt is I made a bad mistake, and the shame is I'm a bad person. And people don't have to feel the shame because the guilt alone is gut-wrenching. And when you're shamed by your family members because of what you've done and because of the addiction that you have, it makes it that much harder.
It does, and that's the thing. That's why I say the family has to change too. And the unfortunate thing, they're not going to change overnight. They're not going to.
No.
You didn't lose that trust overnight.
No.
You lost it over a period of time.
Absolutely.
So it's going to take a while to regain that trust, right? And I'll tell you, like I told another friend, that through a drug addiction, lost all contacts with her grandmother, and her grandmother pretty much wrote her off. And every time I'd see her, she'd be tearing up a little bit about all I want is my family back, and I would keep instilling in her, keep trying, don't give up. And then one day I went up to her and she says, I did it, I got my grandmother back, right? And she's a wonderful lady. She's just done a marvelous job. How long has it been since your family was over with? Has it been over 5 years?
No.
Okay. Because they just changed it, I think, Norwood, you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you're not up on it, but it was a 10-year, and it was just reduced down to 5 years, that you can go back to the court system and get that, I'm going to say the word expunged.
Expunged.
Right, but I might be wrong, because I think there's different levels of that,
I
but
just wanted to hear you say it, that's all.
see, I told you, they would hold my
101.
101 up forever
I'll see
because I
it.
get picked on
I'll see
because of the
it
way I
next
talk. All right, so, but I'm not bashful enough to lead and talk, to run the meeting. But, I'm not hiding from my problems neither. So, it's wonderful. I mean, to hear your success story. You're a wonderful person, and it takes a lot of courage, as we said earlier, to do what each and every one of you is doing and have done.
Yes, and it is a battle. And what I said 2018 was for me. But because of this program, I was able to not be sitting in the ERJ and learning more than when I walked in the door about street life in Martinsburg, or how you go about using the things that they have in.
Or find new suppliers, or
Right, learning names, places, things. I never heard of a tweaker before. That was something that I learned here at the DRC. What that is, I don't know the language or things like that, but you do. When you sit in that jail, you learn so much criminal information that's going on right in our community. I've grown up here all my life. I would never, ever imagine to be in this position right now when I was younger.
right,
Never.
right.
But it's real. It's happening.
And that's a good statement, because one of the things we will say is, if you was in front of the school body at a high school and you ask them, what do you want to do in your life? Not one of them is going to raise their hand and say, I want to be an addict. Right?
No.
Not one. And what happens is, when I was a part of juvenile drug court, what I found is a lot of the people that were addicted didn't have a goal in life. They lost it. Or they weren't dreamers, because for some reason they felt like it wasn't reachable,
Realistic.
And you always have to be able to dream and have the drive to have a purpose and a want.
And that's a focus in the recovery too, is self-esteem. Because
Mhm.
a lot of those people that are addicted, low self-esteem is common. It's a common characteristic among those. And when the lady that did my intake, she sent me to this therapist I'd never met before. But the first thing she told me is, I feel, she did a brief interview. The first thing is, you have low self-esteem. I was like, excuse me? And you want to take defense to that, but when you start to learn all of the different aspects and of the addiction, there's a lot more to it than just getting high or being drunk or something. There's so much more going on in the mind that it affects every realm of your life. And what are we going to do about it?
Right. Anybody have anything to say to Amy?
I do. I can relate to the English 101. I got into a disagreement over a written paper I had done with the professor, and she told me I was wrong, and I absolutely proved I was right, and I ended up taking English 101 from somebody else because she would not pass me on that course.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about self-esteem and goal setting, as a young person, when I was in high school as a junior, I wrote down goals and things I wanted to do. And after I'd been married a couple of years, we sold my grandmother's house, and my husband and I found this cigar box with these 3x5 postcards in it. and he asked when I had written them, and I had written them when I was a junior in high school. At this time, I'm 26. And he said, "And you accomplished all of them?" I said, "Yes." The only difference was one of the things, I wanted to go to the 1968 Olympics. I didn't have enough money, and I went to the 1972. That was the only thing.
As a participant?
Nope. Not as, and I was very fortunate. I went with the National Gymnastics Federation and got to see a lot of things like Olga Komenich and all those guys, close and personal. And but I learned a long time ago, and you have to set goals if you want to get anywhere. And I don't know where I learned it, if it was 0 to 6, but you were talking about your ages. As a child, things weren't that great for me as a kid in that time period. But I learned that I can't change that, number one. So what am I going to do about it? I'm setting goals and going after it. And that's what, as an educator, I always try to tell the kids, and I always got into fights with the guidance counselor because they wanted to reverberate what had happened. The child cannot change that. The only thing they can change is the direction they're going in. And with the program that we have, that's why we're so fervent on changing the goals and getting goals and moving forward.
And that is an issue that we deal with because we talk about the addictive cycle in class. Each morning we begin with that, other than Tim's helping hands. But it's not what you've done, it's what are you going to do about it. And I was a gifted student in elementary school and all through middle school, and I was supposed to be smarter than that. I was supposed to be, this successful, gifted student who was going on to be a surgeon, make all this money, have a great life. Didn't work out that way. And it's not
still work out that way, right?
Yeah, a lot of my classmates are going to med school, but no, I don't. I think I'd rather stick to the lab.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
you're smart to do chemistry and biology because I had to cheat like crazy to get through that biology class.
so you were one of those that I did not like.
Yeah, I probably still don't like it.
Unfortunately, they're weeded out, so
Yeah.
But it again, it can happen to anyone.
I can't.
At any time.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, she said it could happen to anyone. I said, and at any time.
When I was young, I was actually voted most likely to fail when I was in high school.
I was most likely never to return from senior week.
Yeah, but I until I was in my mid-20s, I made a lot of wrong choices, and I found out the hardest thing to turn that around was the self-pity part. Once I got over the feeling sorry for myself, and that seemed like all my work would never amount to change, you could start making milestones so that you can see the change, and it's totally just once it starts going, like I was telling the young man next to you, once it starts going, it just starts multiplying and multiplying as long as you stay the course. And I think you're doing really well. And it looks to me like you've got it straight now, and you understand. The other part I want to say is that Tim has a really nice job. Kevin has a really nice job. And so your statement about where's this person going to get a job after all these failures? 4 of us up here are business owners, unless you call goat farming a business. Then all 5 of us. But we understand and can see the value in the individual, not the past. And I think as long as you're willing to sit down with somebody and tell them your story and tell them where you're at in life and what it's taken to get there, the work and the accomplishments that you've made in a short time, I can't see anybody not wanting to hire you.
What works for me is I've started this little reminder in my mind. It's no longer E-accept, it's now AC-cept. You have to be willing and able to accept what you've done, what it is. You can't take it back. You have to own it, be responsible for your actions. Yes, I have criminal charges and one's a felony pending, but I did that. And I accept it. Am I going to do it again? Am I doing that now? No, I have to no longer make exceptions to why I did that, excuses for why I did that. I have to accept that I did it. That's the bottom line. Chemistry doesn't lie. And you can try to manipulate those tests all day long, and chemistry, Mother Nature, she's going to tell you the truth. I believe in that. But people, this program really is helping save lives.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And welcome home.
Thank you.
Tell me your name again, please. Patrick? Okay, Patrick, thank you.
Good morning, council member. Kevin Miller.
Kevin, good morning.
This is my third time here at the DRC at the Day Report Center. I'll start around 2012, around probation. I did about 4 years on probation. I come from a time where help and resources for an addict weren't available, when it took 2, 3, 4, 5 months to get into a 30-day, 6-month, or any type of program to get help. All they had open were 10-day detoxes. I tried several of those. They didn't work. There wasn't enough time, as she stated.
And back then, our Day Report Center wasn't
even open.
Thames Eye.
No, it wasn't even open yet. No, sadly, it was not open. So eventually, not being able to, get the help I needed for my disease, I was sent to prison. I got out of prison and still not getting the help there that I needed for my problem.
Did it help you? Did the prison help you at all?
No, it didn't.
Did you learn anything?
For the time I was in there, it helped.
Right. But I mean, the problem, and we're working on that too. Kevin Knowles is now in the ERJ, right? And I always say that's a captured audience, right? We can get in, if we could get into the jail, we don't need a facility to do this. We already have it.
Yeah.
It's just state-owned rather than county-owned, and they have opened their doors to us. So it's great that you got to distinguish between who really wants help and who says they want help but they really don't want it. And I think we're doing a good job at that. But wow, it's the best place ever to do that. And recently I just visited a women's prison in California. It was a very telling story, to listen to those women, how they got sent to federal prison for years, and how they've changed and stuff. So please carry on.
Yeah. It'll definitely change you. I don't know about for the better.
Yeah.
But I got out of prison, and I was placed into the hands of Dr. Gray over there by the parole office, and that was way too lenient. For me, I was a chronic heroin user, and also suffered with a lifestyle disease. I'm also addicted to the lifestyle that I used to live, which was selling drugs and being a criminal.
So you was kind of raised in that atmosphere?
I was.
So
I chose to lean more towards that atmosphere after. Well, I can't say I was raised like that. I was raised in Maryland, and I came out here, and I guess I would say less than a year, I got my GED when I came out here. I was about 19 years old. I had a son, and I chose to sell drugs instead of go to work. And
and that's what I'm getting ready to go to, Kevin. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it's very important. So you have a son.
I have a son.
You have any other children?
No, I have one son.
How old is your son?
My son's 9 years old.
9 years old.
Yes, sir.
So with you seeking out the help that you have gotten, right, has changed your life, right? 9 times out of 10, your son's going to live the life that you are currently, not the past, Kevin, right?
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
I would say
you don't want
so.
him to repeat your lifestyle.
No,
early
sir.
on, right?
Not at all.
So not only is your recovery efforts helping you, it's helping your family, it's helping the community, but it's also helping your children.
It is.
All right.
It is. He has stability. That's something that neither him or I had. It's thanks to that gentleman, So those two gentlemen back there, Will and Dennis, they've all been a great help in my life. So when I got to the Day Report Center, the reason it's probably pretty foolproof is because I probably tried to manipulate the system in every way possible, and we figured it out together, right?
Now, how did Tim do that? I mean, Tim doesn't have a gun, right?
No.
He doesn't. I mean, he has a card that'll send you back to jail if you don't play.
That's a
Right.
heavy card in the hands, like
But then
ace in the hole.
Did he make that threat, or was he compassionate about trying to get you to change in a different way?
They were compassionate about trying to get me to change in a different way. It took for me to break down to see it differently. You know, at first, I think that's a lot of the problem with the people coming in is seeing that it's attached to the judicial system. So it's hard to, you know, coming from that lifestyle, to be willing to accept the help that they're there to give, which they are there to give help. And it's hard to, you know, you don't know who to trust, especially you don't even trust yourself in, you know, an active addiction. So to trust someone who you don't know, it took me a while, but, you know, these are men I trust, you know. And these are men who've helped me, you know, alive today. I'm a miracle, and so are these people, you know. You know, it's either jail, prison, or death is where the addiction, you know, sadly leads. And today I'm glad to say that with the help from the Day Report Center, I'm not in any of it. Today I'm here talking to you guys. I'm supposed to be at work, but sorry.
If you need,
Sorry, I come to work every
if you
time.
need us to write a letter for you, we'll be more than glad.
Yeah, they taught me that, how to be timely, how to be on time, or, you know, face consequences that I didn't want to face, you know, having to do community service and, you know, clean things at the Day Report Center, which, you know, I'll probably help out you now. But
Now, being on time, my wife would probably send me to Tim, because she'll confess to him that he's never on time, but I do try.
he's
But
a busy
sometimes,
guy. He's saving lives, man.
Yeah.
I tell them, they're real life Superman. You know, they really save lives every day.
Well, Kevin, it's wonderful to have you here. It's great to hear your story and your success. And I know that 9-year-old son's very proud of you. And we're proud of each and every one of you for making that decision. And I apologize, I keep saying Tim, but it takes Tim and his staff, his wonderful employees, to make a big change in everybody's life. And each and every one of you all are enhancing and the community that we live in. So I just, Tim's in front of me. I know Tim. I apologize. As Tim always says when he's in front of us, it takes the team, it takes the employees, it takes the participant to make us all successful, right? It's a team effort.
Glad to be a part of the team. Well, today I'm over a year clean, and that's with the help of these guys. I think it's a great program. More, I think we should double the size of it. You know what I mean? Open the
We're working on that.
double the size of it. That's
We
what got a lot more
Is that
lives
next
saved
report
out there.
for him, Tim?
He told me not to say anything about money.
But actually, to let y'all-
I figured I'd say double the doors, but
Yeah.
double the size of the building, because there's a lot more lives out there that need to be saved. It's a very scary situation, and I'm just glad to be, you know, outside of it. My hope is to help bring more people, you know, to this side.
that's what I was getting ready to ask, but, I mean, to get somebody else into the program. You have to look to the ones that are there to help you do that.
Hopefully I'll be taking the recovery coach classes soon.
Great.
And hopefully I can get them.
What kind of work do you do now?
I work at Fly Gym over in Napa. I build crates.
I'm sorry, what do you do?
I build crates over the boxes that they do a production over at Napa.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Good. Well, us three are construction workers, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So when we're not here in our suits, we're out playing in the dirt. And I was going to tell Susanna when I hit the gavel, I swing a hammer for a living, so you know, I'm used to
Just
doing
don't put your fingers up.
yeah, see?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, welcome home, and it's so exciting, Patrick, to hear your whole story, and Amy and Kevin. It's just you make our decision making easier and Kevin, just to reinforce what you say, the RFQs, which is for engineering and architectural work, is already out to triple size of the day report center.
And it's a blessing, man, for this whole county, this community.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You know, I got to tell this story, and Tim's probably going to shoot me, or he's going to put me in the day report center for being bad.
He just lock you up.
But, you know, there was a whole transition when I first got here 8 years ago. We had a day report center over here, and you could tell that it just wasn't running the way it should be, right?
Yeah.
And then it got handed over, and we kind of did it with Jefferson County, and this young man was sitting back in the corner as being the assistant under the director, and it was very obvious that he was trying to release some steam, but he knew not to open his mouth. The great thing was we seen that he's the one that needs to run the day report center, and you know, shortly after that, it's been 2 years now, 3 years.
Just turned 3 years.
It's been 3 years since he's taken over as the director of the day report center. We went from probably 6 participants to 196 participants. All right, so Tim and his staff is very, very, very are in it for the right reason, and it's each and like people like each and every one of y'all, you reinforce why they do it.
How important is that to you, the compassion that they have for what they're doing?
Very important. The gentleman back there told me it was like Christmas, right around Christmas, and I failed a few drug tests, and I wanted to reestablish that because they didn't use jail as the offer is go to a program. If I'm honest, you know, it's no longer jail. It's we want to go get you help. So I want to make that clear because it wasn't jail that was held over my head. It was, you know, help. You know, although that's a scary thing, you know, change. But the gentleman back there, Mr. William Papachaz, he was like, look, man, if I have to decide between sending you to a program or, you know, you dying or sending you to jail, you know, I'm going to choose that program or jail. And those are the decisions, you know, where I look back and I see the compassion, you know what I mean, for my life that I didn't have for myself. And those are the things I'm grateful for today, you know, for them to be there to make those type of decisions for me when I wasn't in the right mental state to make them for myself. So that's the amount of compassion they have that answers the question. So.
Good. Good luck.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you getting ready to get into? Go ahead. I just want to introduce. I want to bring Tammy up. Come on. I know how much you love the podium. Tammy is in the Deputy Court Marshal, right?
Yes.
And community service. You take a lot of pride in community service.
Yes, sir.
And she's the reason why one of the reasons of many of why our community service does so well. And Tammy does some things that I got to question her on sometimes because she'll feed people, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't bring anything to eat. Because of her, we have a clothes closet downstairs. So if you don't have appropriate clothes to work out on the roads to do litter control or anything else around the
court.
Or court, right? If you need some clothing to go to court, she's the one that she's saying, so she's just like Tim and Kevin and everybody else. It's just like, my heart's in it, and she's been known to pick people up when they didn't have rides.
Yeah.
So, anything you've been listening?
No, I just told them they can come down and get anything they want out of there. But no, we just try to help people. Now we also have a place where we're sending them to get their GED that's paid for, and it gives them college credits towards Blue Ridge.
Right.
I have one in class now.
I was talking to a gentleman out there doing community service one day, and he said, I made a mistake. I'm glad I'm here, and I won't do this again. And he was going to college, right? And going to college full time, or going to college, working full time, and coming in like 6 o'clock in the morning and getting his work done here.
Yeah.
So,
We work with everybody that comes through. We try to.
and he was very grateful. All right, so.
That's a big part of life, though, right there, and right there, and the guys in the back. You know, those, and for me, what I do, that's a huge part of life, because to do what you're passionate about and have that reward every day that you feel from what you're doing is a huge part of life. Obviously, you got to make money. I mean, that's a given, but
Right.
sometimes that quality of life issue where you're doing something you feel good about makes a huge difference. Doesn't have to be a doctor.
Yeah. I even took a couple people to fill out applications, Bob Tires. They took them out there to fill out the application and hand it in and look for places that are hiring so they can try to find jobs. And it is kind of hard sometimes with the felony, so we try to talk to people to try to see if we can find them something.
Well, keep in mind with this, I'm 99.9% sure that it's now 5 years instead of 10 years. Because
Yeah,
one
that's
lady
good
I was
to know.
talking about earlier, she can qualify.
Yeah.
And she's working on that, and that means so much to her.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. I didn't know they changed it.
Yes. So, all right, stick around, Tammy.
So this is why we do what we do. I come to you all fairly regularly and throw numbers at you and statistics and so forth, and the numbers are important. But what's more important is the fact that human beings' lives are being changed through the programs that you all have created. That's a fact. Patrick has been restored to his parents. Amy is there for her son now. Kevin is there for his son. Kevin's working full time, and these people are now contributing to our community. And those ripple effects can't easily be measured. That's why we do what we do. There is freedom from addiction is possible. I've said that to you all many times before. Freedom from addiction is possible. And there are many in our community that think people who have drug or alcohol addictions are coming from Skid Row or something, or just losers. Not the case. Not the case. And right here are 3 stories to prove that point. And you mentioned that you say Tim, but Tim does very little in comparison to the staff who are boots on the ground every day. Will back there, Will Papajas, is our case management coordinator. I throw stuff at him all day long, and he just handles it. I would not be able to accomplish anything if it were not for Will handling the day-to-day operation of the day report center and overseeing the treatment schedule. I'm thankful to have him. And Dennis back there has been with us for pushing 3 years, Dennis, 2.5? Dennis left. Dennis is one of our peer recovery coaches. Peer recovery coaches are such a valuable part of what we do. They can talk to our participants in a way that an average case manager can't. Meet them right where they are, express empathy. They've been there. Very valuable to us. Anyways, I'm here today to, as you all know, we can't accomplish what we need to accomplish with what we have currently. The space is being worked on, I know that. But with the current staffing that we have, we cannot meet the need. IDA has been generous to us. We just exhausted the 2018 funds that we were awarded and all the additional funds that they awarded us. Those funds have as of right now, have been exhausted. My 2019 budget needs to be submitted, and for our 2019 HIDA funds, we have an increase of $100,000, which needs to be budgeted for. Our DHHR drug screening revenue has just climbed and climbed and climbed.
And you're thinking that might be $300,000 this year?
Yes, sir. Approximately $300,000. So I'm requesting, for now, I'm not going to even have appropriate office space, but I'm going to fit these staff into the home confinement modular temporarily to provide some space for them.
And by the way, everybody understands that Dan and his daughter worked very hard to get those modulars to save us couple $100,000.
And they've
Right.
made all the difference in the world for the last 2 years.
It's crazy, right?
They really have, but we need more than that now. But with those funds, I'm not requesting new money from the council. This money will pay for these positions. I'm requesting one full-time case manager, one new full-time peer recovery coach, and 2 full-time driver/drug screeners.
So basically, let's just make it clear, though, we have to budget for those items, but what you're saying is the revenue is going to be there to support those,
Yes, sir.
all right?
Yes, sir.
So it's basically fronting the money.
Neutral.
And then, that's not neutral,
Well,
it's going to be,
A bridge.
he's going to have some money left over.
Yes.
But he's still going to have to work harder. Because now he's got more
Are you
staff.
trying to say
No,
that he's
no.
willingly throwing himself under the bus?
He is,
Right.
he is, because he's going to have to work harder. Not only is he going to have to work harder, you didn't even mention, we talked about it last week when you weren't here, but now he's got Saturdays to deal with.
Starting in September, we're moving to Saturday hours, and we've had a lot of discussion about exactly how that's going to work. Originally, we were planning on a 4-hour block on Saturdays from 8 to 12, but I think it's probably going to be an 8-hour day. I don't think there's really any way around that. We really need that additional time to accomplish the mission. We just don't have enough time in the week right now. Yeah.
All right. So entertain a motion to, and Penny, you're here, Alan's out enjoying himself this week. Alan, according to our read ahead, he's perfectly fine with this. He agrees with Tim. He makes that recommendation, all right? All right, Mr. Bentley, you don't have any legal issues, right, on that? It's just hiring personnel to do the job and help people, right?
I think it's a great thing to be a part of.
All right.
So move.
Second?
The motion is made to increase the staffing for the day report center as requested. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And if I may, while we're talking about this, and I'm sorry we're running so far over, I want you to think about how many people you changed. All right? Thank you.
Thank you guys for sharing your stories today.
And I want to give you applause. It's a great job. Keep up the great work. And if you want, we'll take photos real quick while you're here. So, any items from the public? If not, Mr. Barnhart?
Mr. President, I move to recess.